I know that you have supported my ministry and financially, but I assume also in prayers and in helping me build relationships. I've met a few of you here already. And that is it's really wonderful. I'm delighted to be here. A big part of the work that I'm doing with the Mission Start currently revolves around spending time in Portland and building relationships with people that I meet. So a few weeks ago, when I had met someone new, and I told him I was a pastor, he replied to me, "So, you protect the flock." And in that moment, I probably responded by saying something like, "Well, kind of," or, you could say it that way. And I knew it didn't quite exactly fit, that doesn't feel like what my job is, what my role is, but I didn't exactly know how. And thankfully, our gospel lesson for today has helped me unpack why that's not exactly the case. First, and most importantly, I think it's because pastors are not shepherds. Although it's a common metaphor for pastors, Jesus makes it very clear that Jesus is the shepherd. And so pastors, therefore, are also just sheep who are listening for the voice of Jesus. Second, Jesus uses the imagery of the Good Shepherd in response to a much larger social matter. In the chapter prior to our gospel reading, Jesus has restored sight to a man who was born blind. And so some Pharisees hear about this and about what Jesus has done and are hoping to get him in trouble with the authorities because he healed on the Sabbath, which is a day when no one was supposed to work, right? You weren't supposed to heal on the Sabbath. So our gospel lesson is a part of the explanation that Jesus is giving to the blind man as to why he healed on the Sabbath. He's attempting to help the Pharisees and the world see a new way of being. A way of being that values every person over established systems that only values or privileges a few. So in also using this metaphor of the shepherd to refer to himself, Jesus is doing this in another way. Because a shepherd was not somebody who was highly ranked in society. They were usually dirty and smelly and uneducated and wandered around in the land. And they lived on the margins of society. Nancy R. Blakely, in her reflections on the text, found in the book Feasting on the Word, says it this way: "For Jesus to say, 'I am the Good Shepherd,' would have been an affront to the religious elite and educated. The claim had an edge to it. A modern-day equivalent might be for Jesus to say, 'I am the good migrant worker.' So by comparing himself to a shepherd, and by then explaining what the Good Shepherd is like, such as never giving up on the sheep, laying down the shepherd's life for the sheep, and not putting limits on which sheep belong to the flock, but being open to welcoming and knowing that there are more sheep out there that belong. Jesus shows that this new way of being doesn't have anything to do with the current system that puts rules before people. Rather, it focuses on relationship with others and seeing others as important and valuable, rather than upholding a specific system and following rules. So much so that sometimes, in order to value and honor other people, the rules need to be broken. Finally, the reason the protect the flock metaphor also didn't work is because sheep, unlike cows, are led rather than pushed from behind. Sheep follow their leader. It's only a part of the idea of the role that a shepherd protects its sheep. The shepherd must also lead the sheep across the countryside in search of places to graze, so that the sheep will not only survive, but so that they'll thrive. So in order to thrive, the shepherd calls the sheep. Jesus calls us into unknown territory. Because it is amongst this unknown territory that we find what is life-giving. It is out in the wilderness, out in places we've never been before, that we meet people, sometimes people who are different than us, and people who are not a part of the flock, we might say. And in this process, we learn about ourselves, and ultimately we learn about the love and the grace of God. devastating earthquake in Nepal. Yeah? Nobody knows why tragedies like this happen. But we do know that there are people there in need, and that God is weeping with them. For some of us, this means that we are called to pray. For others, maybe to send money. And for some, this means a call beyond the walls of safety of their homes to serve on a disaster response team in Nepal. Nothing about this is safe. Nothing about this will keep you protected. But it might be where the Good Shepherd leads. Generally, in our everyday lives, I think the Good Shepherd leads us in a few more simple ways. Maybe it might be something like saying hello to the neighbor you haven't met before, or taking a step to volunteer in the organization you've been thinking of for a while and just for some reason have been holding back, or forgiving somebody who's hurt you in order to mend that relationship. Either way, the Good Shepherd leads us on a path that always values people and the lives of others over upholding systems and rules that only value some. Jesus desires for us to be in relationship with others, especially those who are different from us, because it is through relationship that we know and experience God's loving and forgiving grace given to us through the cross and the resurrection. God leads us out into the world so that we might share that grace with others through entering into relationship with them. And that's what this new experimental, creative ministry in Portland is about. It's about recognizing the voice of the Good Shepherd in unexpected places out in the world. It's about naming that voice as what it is and proclaiming that love and grace from God through being in relationship and building relationship with other people. It's about witnessing and pointing to a new way of being in the world that continues to proclaim a boundaryless and limitless love that can only come from God. For we are all following the one Good Shepherd, Jesus Christ. And we are all called to live and share the good news that the shepherd offers the world. So I invite us to think about today where the Good Shepherd might be leading you. In what ways the Good Shepherd leading you to deepen relationship